I found his character so similar to the character of Vijay.
There was a certain distance that happened, but that feeling didn't kind of change. Salman was the eldest, so I was, I think, closer to Baby and Sohail. Alvira and Sohail, because we were closer in age.
Yeah.
So we just hung around, we played a lot, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, to cheap tricks, they weren't vulgar ever. I think that has definitely influenced our work.
You were born, if I'm not wrong, I think Salim-Javed had Sita or Geeta, the film released that year. And the years when you were growing up, they had this really blockbuster phase of Dawn, Sholay, and Jai Diwar. When did you realize your father was extremely popular?
I mean, I think later, like when I hit 10, 11. I mean, we knew we were, like, my parents were in the film and business because we saw all the screenings, and, you know, we had a projector in our house. We used to watch films on the wall. So we knew we were part of the business, but the fact that they were big and all came later because we never had magazines in the house. We never had that kind of access to stuff growing up as kids. And we didn't realize that the actors and all were that famous till we grew up.
Yeah.
You know, it was,
Yeah.
So
but what was it like to grow up in that house, Zoya, if you can just sort of place us there?
It was actually really, now when I look back, it was, I was lucky. It was really fun because it was full of artists and not just actors. There were musicians, poets, technical crew, assistants. My mother was an assistant director while we were growing up. So there were all kinds of people, and you constantly heard stuff about film. You constantly heard films dissected, broken down, what worked, what didn't work. And it's just by osmosis you kind of take that material in, you know, but it was great fun. And it was the 70s, so they really partied. Yeah.
The music,
Yeah, they really partied.
Yeah. Namrata, where did this title come from? Was it always there? Or, I mean, it's such a cool title. I mean, you just had to be this. Was it always there, or at some point in the making you thought, why this had to be?
No, it was always there. It's Zoya's title. In fact, when we spoke about it first, she said, you know, this is the idea that I want to work on, and it will be called Angry Young Men. So it was always, and I was like, wow, I mean, that is the title. Yeah.
How many hours of footage did you have though? Like, this sounds like, I think you shot it for 3 years, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
How many hours is there?
I mean, I feel, should I say it?
Yep.
800 hours. Yeah. And we've made it 2 hours. So
you were editing it yourself? Or?
No. Geeta Singh is the editor and very able and very good with so much footage. So, you know, she has edited it.
Yeah. But Namrata, what was the sort of the challenge like when you have 800 hours worth of footage? How do you then sort of figure this is the narrative that I want to follow? What was that like, if you can tell me?
So it has really evolved. So when we started out, we did a huge, like, it was really big, I mean, a chronological map of both their lives, which were going parallelly, and how then they met, and then things started happening, including the anecdotes, the interesting stories that we had heard at what point. So we made a huge map of their life, and then we started shooting according to that. But as I was shooting, I realized that, you know, I mean, a lot of information is not really what is interesting to me. You know, what is more interesting is the kind of people they are, what makes them the artists they are, and how did they create these kind of characters, because it's them, you know, it's coming from them. So it kind of started revealing itself. And so the information and the trivia and all has gone out a little bit, I would say, and it has become more about them. I mean, like portraits of these two artists.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
So why Namrata? I mean, it's an interesting choice because I think she's worked with you as an editor in I think 2 of your projects, Made in Heaven and Last Stories.
3, and Ghost Stories.
Ghost. Why her, and this is her directorial debut? Like, did you see a director in her in the edit room? What is that like?
Yeah, I met Namrata socially because she was she's cut some of the films I've really liked, like the Bakar's films.
Yeah.
That's how I met her. And then I worked with her on Last Stories and Made in Heaven and then Ghost Stories. And when you're, like, editing for me is the rewrite of the film, of the material. So I think most editors, good editors, have a very strong sense of narrative because that's what they're doing. They are creating, they're carving the story out of all this footage and sticking to the story and, you know, what darlings to be killed and what to be kept. And so they're very in tune with how the narrative should flow. So they have a very strong sense of story. With Namrata, I felt that. I felt she was very good with that. And she loves Hindi movies. She knew their work. She has a great sense of humor, which I knew that they would connect with completely and be comfortable with, and definitely wanted somebody who was not from the family, because I'm a director, Farhan's a director, Sohail could have done it, Arbaz does interviews, and he does very personal interviews. He's very good like that. But one of the kids doing it is, it's too personal. You know, you don't get that gaze, that kind of distance to it. So she came in there, and it was interesting to have a woman because they have such a male persona, but they're very specifically male. You know, they are not offensive males. Let's just put it that way. You know, and so I wanted a female gaze on them. On the Angry Young Man, and she just ticked all the boxes. So when I suggested her name to Farhan and Reema, they were just like, you know, she's perfect, and she hadn't done anything. So there's none of that jaded movie, you know, it's everything was new.
There's no template.
There was no template,
Were you surprised, Namrata?
I mean, I was so excited when I got that call. I mean, I really wanted to do a cartwheel. I was very, very excited. And I mean, I don't know, it just instinctively felt correct. Though I'd been trying to make a fiction film since 2015 now, I've been trying. But when this came up, it just felt so correct to me. I mean, documentary to me has been very special. I even started my editing career with documentaries. And that's how I actually met Dibakar. I had done a documentary which he saw, and then he reached out, and I was like, okay, you know. So it's always had a special spot, and I really like documentary also because it's so close to life. You know, you cannot script it, and you don't know how this character is going to behave today, say today, and I really enjoy that. And it also keeps you on your toes. So you get a lot of fodder for fiction, I feel.
True.
Yeah.
True. So it's interesting. I mean, if you can take me back in time and tell me, what are some of the very strong standout memories that you have of Salim Uncle and Javed Akhtar Saab, that when you were growing up as a child, something that truly has over the years stayed with you? Is there a particular memory that you can share?
I mean, hearing them narrate. Things I don't even know what they were narrating, seeing their handwritten scripts. Like I remember they only wrote on blank foolscap sheets. Like my dad would just write on, and it would be like blank foolscap, and then somebody would come and like put it on a typewriter and stuff like that. So I remember those pages. I remember the study that they worked in and what it looked like. And that's my room now. So I'm in that room. And hotel rooms. I remember the Blue Diamond in Pune. They would work out of there. They would work out of the Sun and Sand. So, you know, hotel rooms that they did things, and also being told like there's a sitting on, or there's a story session on, or don't enter the room. But those were the memories.
Were you a naughty child? I'm just thinking.
No, not really.
One who would enter the room.
Yeah, I would enter the room, but I wasn't naughty, so to speak. No. But yeah, I would enter the room if I had to.
You know, the documentary has so many interesting people, sort of us giving their point of view about this legacy. Who was most difficult to get on board, and someone that you really wanted but perhaps you could not? What's the story there?
Well, no, I think more or less of course, I mean, you know, the wish list never ends, honestly. But I mean, we started shooting in the pandemic. So there were a lot of challenges around that. Also because they, you know, their contemporaries are also aging. So there were a lot of concerns around the pandemic, meeting people, getting into shoots, you know. So, I mean, we had to navigate all of that. And then, of course, I mean, a lot of people we couldn't get who are no more. I mean, so many of their directors, like Prakash Mehra Saab, I mean, we would have loved to shoot with him. Or even Desh Mukherjee, Ravi Tandon, you know, Yash Ji. So that was a very, very, I mean, big loss. But we were happy that, okay, now we're shooting so that whoever is there, we can shoot with them.
You know, one inclusion that did surprise a lot of fans was Yash in the trailer, and no one saw that coming. What is that? What's the story behind that?
So KGF, if you watch, I found it so similar. I mean, I found his character so similar to the character of Vijay. He works in a coal mine. I mean, he uses that same lift to go down. Then he has, his mother lives under the subway. Yeah, I mean, which reminds you of Diwar. Then he promises his mother that he will become someone. Hello, you know, I mean, so there were so many things. And so I found it fascinating that people still connect to his character, Rocky's character, so much. And I mean, that's what we spoke about. And I mean, he also really respects their work and really enjoys watching them. Yeah.
Was that difficult to get him on board for this, or what was the convincing like?
No, actually, I mean, he was really happy to do it. Yeah.
So I think you would have been in your early teens when Salim-Javed played professionally. Do you remember, if at all, you felt it in the family?
Yes, of course, because we were very tight with the kids. So there was a certain, okay, what's happened in that sense, and things did change in that way. There was a certain distance that happened, but that feeling didn't kind of change. Like we never had, they were never different to Farhan or me, or we never had any of that, you know. The kids were, like, we were always, it's always been the same. That affection, that warmth, that feeling of comfort. I feel that way. Like, I'm not, it's always stayed. You meet Salma auntie, or I meet Salim uncle, Actually, I met Salim uncle the most because I used to go on bandstand and he would be walking there. So he's the one that I had the maximum connect with. And it was lovely. That didn't change.
Oh, wonderful. But what was it like sort of growing, you, Farhan, and I believe Sohail, Salman, Arbaz, were you growing up very thick?
Yeah, I mean, we were the runts of the litter. We were the youngest. So Salman was the eldest. So I was, I think, closer to Baby and Sohail, Alvira and Sohail, because we were closer in age. Yeah. So we just hung around. We played a lot. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was very good times, really fun times.
Namrata, is there a lot of times when we have documentaries made on personalities? One sort of apprehension is, what if this ends up becoming a hagiography where it's all about sort of revering their legacy in a manner that's very godlike. Was that something that you were conscious about, that this could be also sort of an apprehension from viewers' perspective? Extremely
conscious about it. In fact, we spoke about it also right in the beginning, and thankfully all my producers, including Zoya, they told me that they don't want it to be a birthday video or a puff piece in any way, and they really stuck to that, you know. I mean, they've given me a lot of support and a lot of space. So I mean, even though I was apprehensive in the beginning, all of it fell off while we were editing, and so it was really great. I mean, I have nothing to complain.
Is it difficult, Namrata, sort of to convince Javed Saab and Salim Saab to open up about their lives in front of a camera and sort of to do it, I believe, day in, day out? I mean, what is this shooting schedule? Was it difficult that way? Did they take time to get into the groove? What was the point that you realized, okay, now we are sort of hitting it?
So initially, yes, they were a little formal, I would say, maybe in the first interview, but I've shot with them a lot, like over 3 years. So we would keep going back, and in fact, I met them a lot also in between without the camera, just talking, you know, making notes, just having lunch, talking about other things. And slowly, you know, they also started trusting me, I think, a little bit more. And they were also interested in talking more candidly, I would say. And it was the case with, I mean, I think I was also very lucky that it just happened. I mean, you know, there were so many serendipitous moments throughout the shoot. I guess it happens on every shoot, but I just consider myself lucky in that sense. And even the other people that we've shot with, there is a certain candidness and heart and a soul that has just got infused into it, you know, which was, I mean, I cannot take credit for it. It is really, it's something that just happened.
Right. You know, so I was listening in the previous interview, you mentioned something wonderful that these two men wrote women with agency, and this is in the 70s and 80s, where we didn't have Twitter to call out those who don't. What do you think, and to you, Namrata, what really made Salim-Javed material stand out? Today, when a lot of male filmmakers write women, it's very obvious that they're not getting it right. These two certainly did. Why do you think that's the case?
I don't know. I think they just responded to stronger women. I think they just responded to stronger women, and they did those women at that. So even if there was nothing explored and they were male-led stories, none of the women were just props. You know, they all had jobs and they all had things, and even if it wasn't totally explored, there was an identity in them. I think they just, like, their mother figures were very strong. You know, there was certain, like Farhan in an interview mentioned that Parveen Babi's character in Diwar is of a night worker, and how the dignity in that relationship and how they're treated and the humanity of it, you know, is very telling of them. So I think they just responded to, I don't think they made a decision to do this. I think it's just what came organically and what they admire, actually.
And of course, I mean, we have gone into the nitty-gritties of these things, which you'll see in the series, and we've deconstructed their characters and all. And there were things that they genuinely did not know or were aware of. But they have this, you know, this self-reflection where they are open to admitting that, okay, maybe I would have written the character of Geeta a little differently now. You know, like Javed Saab told us that, I don't think it's there in the series, it didn't make it, but he said that Geeta, when she goes into Sita's house, and her aspiration is to, you know, stitch like Sita and cook like Sita, and I would never do that today, because why would Geeta want to do that? She is, I mean, great the way she is. Why does she have to aspire to be that woman who stitches and all? He said, "Tab hame pata hi nahi tha, shayad." And now, I mean, I would never do that. And I admit that that was not what we should have done then.
Yeah. Beautifully put, yeah. So the last question, is there something that you can now look back and in a way pinpoint that this is, in terms of your writing, that this is something that I've obviously taken from my father. This is perhaps something that he used to do, or a writing style that he had, that it reflects even in your cinema. I believe at some point you were excited to make a crime mafia film, and a lot of people thought this would be it would have a lot of reflection of Salim-Javed cinema. Is there something like that?
I think their characters were not really black and white. I think there is an ambiguity in all their characters. Their hero even, there's a certain shade of grey, there's a certain, everything doesn't quite fit in. Yeah. And I think that translates in my work. I think my characters are not completely white or black in that sense. I think the fact that they didn't resort to, you know, to cheap tricks, they weren't vulgar ever. I think that has definitely influenced our work. I think the respect to the ensemble, to giving each character, even if it's a one scene character, should have a certain charm, a certain resonance, you know. I think those things have come from them.
When is the Mafia film coming out?
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on the script right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fingers crossed that
Yeah.
it comes to something, some heft. Yeah.